What would you do if your late father's legacy was hijacked by the man who once tucked you in at night? When Cameron Hole returns home to mourn his father's death, he uncovers a web of betrayal, embezzlement, and power-hungry ambition within his own family. His beloved uncle has seized control of the company. His childhood friend turned fiancé is hiding damning secrets, and the empire his father built teeters on the edge of ruin. But Cameron isn't walking away. He's stepping into the war room. With his ailing mother, a loyal family attorney, and a ticking clock, Cameron must untangle a corporate conspiracy, expose the traitors he once called family, and reclaim the legacy he was born to protect. Lies. Love, power, revenge. This isn't just a boardroom battle, this is the final reckoning. Cameron Hole never expected a simple letter to change everything. It was an ordinary Thursday when he found the old envelope tucked away in a drawer at the family estate, a brittle paper yellowed with age, sealed with a faded wax imprint. His father's handwriting, unmistakable and elegant, addressed to Cameron. His fingers trembled as he carefully unfolded the letter. The words inside were precise, legal, yet tender. To my beloved son, Cameron, this letter accompanies the family trust documents I established 2 years ago. You must understand the terms and uphold the intentions I set forth. Your mother's well-being is our utmost priority. The trust safeguards her care, and all assets are to remain untouched except for her needs. Both you and your sister, Marissa, are named as trustees and beneficiaries, with the responsibility to act with honor and transparency. May this protect the legacy we have built together. Cameron sat back in his chair, a heavy weight settling in his chest. He'd been aware of the trust before, but had never read the letter directly. His father, Richard Hull, was a meticulous man, and Cameron always trusted his guidance. But recent events gnawed at him. For months, strange financial irregularities had surfaced. His mother, Evelyn, once vibrant and sharp, had become withdrawn, often nervous when Cameron brought up family finances. Bank statements showed unexplained large withdrawals and transfers. When Cameron casually asked Marissa about them, his sister's responses were vague, evasive, sometimes tinged with annoyance. That evening, Cameron returned home early from a business trip, determined to confront his mother gently. He found her in the sunroom, gazing out at the manicured gardens. "Mom," he said softly, "can we talk about the trust and the finances?" Evelyn turned, her eyes glassy. "I'm worried, Cameron. Marissa has been managing the bills while I've been ill." He took her hand. "I saw the bank statements, Mom. Some of the withdrawals don't match the expenses we know about." "Did Marissa tell you about these?" Evelyn shook her head, her voice trembling. "No, I don't understand it. She said it was to protect the family's future." Cameron felt a cold knot tighten in his stomach. That night he sat by the fireplace with his laptop and called Harold Finch, his family's longtime lawyer and trusted advisor. "Harold, I think. Something's wrong with the trust. Funds are missing and the withdrawals don't make sense." Harold's voice was grave. "I'll review the trust documents and recent transactions immediately. If there's fraud, we must act fast." Over the next few days, Cameron and Harold combed through financial records and legal papers. What they uncovered was troubling. Multiple wire transfers from the family trust account to corporate entities Cameron had never heard of. The largest of these was to a company called Greenway Holdings, registered only months ago. Harold frowned. "This company isn't listed in any family business records. Do you know who controls it?" Cameron shook his head, a sinking feeling settling in. He decided to confront Marissa directly. The family estate was heavy with tension when she arrived, dressed impeccably as always. But Cameron noticed the tightness around her eyes. "Marissa, we need to talk about these transfers. Who authorized them?" Her smile was thin, almost rehearsed. "Cameron, you don't understand. Your mother's health is fragile. I've been securing our assets by investing in stable opportunities." "Why didn't you tell me?" "The trust requires full transparency." Marissa's gaze hardened. "You don't know the risks we face. I'm protecting the family from financial collapse." The words felt like a knife twisting. Cameron remembered the last conversation they had months ago when she warned him to stop questioning her. Determined to get to the bottom, Cameron searched through the family computer late into the night. His persistence paid off when he discovered a series of emails from Marissa to an unknown executive at Greenway Holdings. Attached were contracts and signed agreements under Evelyn's name, deals Cameron had never been shown. He realized the severity of the situation. Was his sister betraying their family? The following morning, Cameron sat with Evelyn in the sunroom, voice gentle but firm. "Mom, I found contracts you didn't approve. They could jeopardize everything." Evelyn's hands shook. "I trusted Marissa. I thought she was acting in our best interest." Cameron vowed silently that he would uncover the truth no matter the cost. The days after uncovering the secret contracts were some of the darkest Cameron had ever faced. His family estate, once a sanctuary, now felt like a labyrinth of shadows and half-truths. Every whispered conversation and every furtive glance from Marissa tightened the invisible noose around his trust and hope. Determined to confront the truth head-on, Cameron enlisted Harold Finch's help to dig deeper into Greenway Holdings and the mysterious transactions. Harold, with his decades of legal experience, pulled strings and accessed databases beyond Cameron's reach. One afternoon, as Cameron sat in his study poring over documents, Harold arrived with a stack of papers and a somber expression. "Cameron, this isn't just about mismanagement or bad investments. Greenway Holdings is a shell company tied to a series of offshore accounts linked to a web of fraudulent businesses. This is deliberate deception." Cameron's breath caught. "And Marissa? Her name appears in multiple filings as a director and authorized signer. It's clear she's deeply involved." The revelation hit Cameron harder than he anticipated. It wasn't just a matter of misplaced trust. It was outright betrayal by his sister. His mind raced back to their childhood, to the years spent growing up together, the shared secrets, laughter, and promises. Was it all a facade? That evening, he sat across from Marissa in the grand dining room, the dim chandelier casting shadows on their faces. "I know what you've been doing," Cameron said quietly. "Why, Marissa? Why betray everything we stand for?" Marissa's eyes hardened. "Because I had to, Cameron. Father's empire is crumbling. The debts, the lawsuits, it's more than you realize. I'm trying to save us." "Save us by stealing from Mom's trust, by risking her future?" Marissa's voice cracked with frustration. "You don't understand. You've always been the golden boy, the favored one. I'm tired of living in your shadow." Cameron felt a stab of pain but steeled himself. "This isn't about favoritism. It's about integrity. We have to fix this before it's too late." But Marissa shook her head, rising abruptly. "You're naive if you think you can stop me." Days passed with icy silence between the siblings. Meanwhile, Evelyn's health worsened, and Cameron, worried the stress was taking its toll on her. He visited her daily, trying to shield her from the storm. One afternoon, as Cameron sat by Evelyn's bedside, she took his hand weakly. "Be careful, Cameron. This isn't just about money. Some people want more than the estate. They want to destroy us." Cameron's heart pounded. "What do you mean, Mom? Who?" Evelyn's eyes darted to the window as if expecting someone to appear. "Your father made enemies, powerful ones. I fear some of them are closer than we think." The gravity of the situation deepened. Determined to protect his mother and uncover the full truth, Cameron reached out to an old family friend and private investigator, Lucas Trent. Lucas had helped Richard Hall years ago during a corporate espionage incident, and Cameron hoped his expertise could shed light on recent events. Lucas arrived the next morning, sharp-eyed and methodical. Together they began tracing the money trails, uncovering layers of deception that extended beyond Marissa's actions. Late one night, Lucas handed Cameron a file. "Look at this. Emails, phone records, and surveillance footage. They point to someone orchestrating the fraud from behind the scenes." Cameron's eyes widened as he scanned the evidence. The mastermind was none other than Gregory Shaw, the new CEO of Hall Enterprises, who had recently taken over the family business after Richard's unexpected resignation. Gregory's smooth public persona masked a ruthless ambition. He had been slowly consolidating power, manipulating board members, and silencing dissenters. The fraud and shell companies were part of his plan to siphon funds and destabilize the whole family's control. Cameron felt the walls closing in. He confronted Gregory in his sleek, glass-walled office overlooking the city skyline. "Your game is over, Gregory. I have proof of your schemes and your role in the fraud." Gregory smiled coldly. "You're out of your depth, Cameron. This is business, cutthroat and necessary. Your family's empire is dying. Accept it." "We won't let you destroy everything Dad built," Cameron replied, voice steady. Gregory's eyes flickered with menace. "Watch your step. This isn't a game." The confrontation left Cameron shaken but resolute. Returning home, he shared the findings with Evelyn and Harold, formulating a plan to expose Gregory and reclaim control. But the deeper they dug, the more dangerous the battle became. Cameron realized that to save his family, he would have to navigate a treacherous web of lies, betrayal, and power struggles, and that the cost might be higher than he ever imagined. Tucker, cold rain streaked down the windows of the whole estate as Cameron stared into the fireplace, flames licking the air like angry memories. Everything had unraveled faster than he anticipated. Gregory's betrayal, Marissa's complicity, and the creeping realization that his father's empire was not only weakened, but on the verge of collapse. But Cameron wasn't raised to surrender, the EI. Next morning, with Evelyn's quiet blessing, Cameron met Harold and Lucas in the study to finalize their plan. Evelyn, despite her fragile state, insisted on attending the board meeting at Hall Enterprises. "They need to remember what Richard Hall stood for," she whispered, her voice soft but resolute. The plan was twofold. First, present hard evidence of Gregory's embezzlement and unauthorized offshore transactions to the board of Hall Enterprises. Second, file formal complaints with the Securities Commission and law enforcement. Lucas had compiled a comprehensive dossier, one that detailed wire transfers, fabricated invoices, falsified tax reports, and recordings of Gregory's confidential conversations with complicit board members. It was all irrefutable. But they had one more card to play. Marissa. Cameron needed her to testify, not just as a participant, but as a whistleblower. It would reduce her legal liability and force Gregory's entire scheme into the light. Convincing her, however, would be the most difficult part. He found her on the balcony of her penthouse apartment, clutching a glass of wine, her shoulders tense beneath a velvet shawl. Her eyes met his without surprise. "I suppose you're here to gloat," she said flatly. "No," Cameron replied gently. "I'm here to give you a choice." He handed her a folder. She hesitated before flipping it open. Her eyes scanned the evidence, her expression tightening with every page. "Gregory used you, Marissa. He never intended to save Hall Enterprises. He's been preparing to sell off our assets to foreign interests. You're just another pawn in his game." "I didn't know it was this deep," she whispered, her voice cracking. I thought I was taking control, saving the legacy. You can still do the right thing, help us stop him, testify, come with me to the board." For a long moment, she was silent. Then, with a deep breath, she nodded. The Hall Enterprises emergency board meeting was tense and filled with hushed murmurs. Executives, lawyers, and shareholders filled the polished mahogany room. Gregory sat confidently at the head of the table, his trademark smirk in place. But his smirk faltered when Evelyn Hall, regal and composed despite her cane and oxygen support, entered the room flanked by Cameron, Marissa, Harold, and Lucas. Gregory stood. "Mrs. Hall, this is highly irregular. I built this company with Richard, and I have every right to sit at this table," she said coldly, settling into her chair with poise. "More than you ever will." Cameron stepped forward. "Before we proceed with any agenda items, I believe it's time we heard the truth." He laid out the dossier on the table. Lucas connected his laptop to the projector. Over the next hour, a damning stream of documents, audio recordings and video surveillance, unfolded. Gasps echoed through the room as Gregory's voice played. We bleed the assets dry, stash them offshore, then walk. The Hall name will crash, but I'll be long gone. Gregory's face turned from red to pale. He tried to interject, but Marissa rose. I was part of this, she admitted, eyes shining with guilt. But I was misled. I thought I was saving the company. I'm here to make it right. And to testify. A board member asked cautiously, how do we know this isn't a family feud disguised as drama? Evelyn raised her voice, surprisingly firm. Because Hall Enterprises was built on honesty. We've made mistakes, but we've never stolen from our own. If this board still has a shred of decency, you'll act accordingly. Within an hour, a vote was taken. Gregory was removed as CEO with immediate effect. Security escorted him out. As he barked threats and cursed the board, the Hall family, and Cameron. Criminal proceedings began that very evening. In the weeks that followed, the truth swept through the corporate world like wildfire. News outlets covered the Hall family's internal crisis, but also praised the courage and transparency with which Cameron and Evelyn handled the matter. Marissa's public testimony, laced with remorse, helped sway public sentiment. Though she faced financial penalties and legal scrutiny, her cooperation spared her prison and allowed for partial restitution. Hall Enterprises, though bruised, began to rebuild. Evelyn formally transferred the majority control of her shares to Cameron, naming him the new CEO. With a fresh executive board, stricter transparency measures, and a commitment to ethical practices, Hall Enterprises took its first step toward renewal. At home, Evelyn's condition stabilized with the stress lifted. Her conversations with Cameron grew deeper, more personal. One afternoon in the garden, she held his hand and whispered, "You've made your father proud, Cameron. You brought honor back to our name." Cameron smiled, eyes glistening. "I just wanted to protect what matters." Marissa, humbled, moved into a quiet house in the countryside. She and Cameron maintained contact, slowly mending their fractured bond. It would take time, but the foundation of love was still there, buried beneath the debris of ambition and pain. 6 months later, Hall Enterprises launched a new initiative, the Evelyn Hall Foundation for Corporate Ethics, focused on training young entrepreneurs in ethical leadership and financial accountability. Cameron spearheaded the effort, drawing from his family's turbulent story as a case study in redemption and resilience. At the inaugural gala, he stood on stage beside Evelyn, his voice clear and confident. "We've learned that legacy isn't built on buildings or portfolios. It's built on trust, on values, and on the courage to confront what's broken. This foundation isn't just about fixing the past. It's about shaping a future that's honest, inclusive, and principled." Thunderous applause followed, but for Cameron, the greatest validation was a simple nod from Evelyn, eyes glistening with pride. In the solitude of his father's study, Cameron placed a framed photograph of Richard Hole on the mantel, young, ambitious, proud. Beneath it, he tucked a letter. "Dad, I thought I lost everything, but I found the strength to fight for what matters. The truth, our family, and the legacy you entrusted me with. I hope I've honored it. Love, Cameron." As he lit a single candle and watched it flicker in the dark, he realized something profound. True inheritance isn't just wealth or reputation. It's integrity, love, and the will to rise again.